Hello, my name's Carista, and today I'm going to be talking about busy fall days, bringing in the harvest, and all the different projects that I've been working on recently. So come on in, let's get started. Hello, fiber friends. Thank you for joining me for Sweet Mountain Crafts, episode 15. Today I have lots of fun new things to share with you all. If you're looking for me online, you can find me on Instagram as Sweet Mountain Crafts, Sweet Mountain Mohair, and Sweet Mountain Fiber. So at each of those places I have different things that I share and post. I'm also on Facebook as Sweet Mountain Crafts and here on YouTube. It is October 31st, and while I don't have anything particularly Halloweenish to share today, I do want to say happy Halloween to all of you who are having fun celebrating with costumes and candy. Stay safe and hope it's a good day for you. Thank you to any returning viewers that are coming back to watch me and have been hanging out with me, trying to watch me as I go through these ups and downs. There's lots of new activity in my life and lots of big changes. And thank you for any new viewers that have decided to come check out the podcast. I've been here more consistently in the past, and I'm trying to get to a more regular routine. We'll see how things go. But thanks for joining me, and hope you enjoy today's episode. So, what have I been up to? Well, all kinds of things, as you guys can imagine. This time of year is very busy as the fall days are starting to draw to a close. The warmer weather and just the end of the harvest season is here and upon us. For those of you that have been watching for some time, you know that I keep a garden, and then we also have some property, some acreage where we have animals and projects outside. So lots of things to keep us busy. With the harvest, the big things that have been happening there are that I have been able to bring in some of the goodies from our garden. So you can see here, I'm going to focus first on these peppers. It was so fun this year. Our pepper load was quite high. I take a number of the jalapenos and dehydrate them and then grind them down into a fine powder that we use as a sprinkle on all kinds of stuff. My husband loves to use it. He'll use it on all kinds of his food. So we have that I do with the jalapenos. But this year, something new for me, I decided to take the habaneros and make a hot sauce. So in this image here, you can see a pan full of habaneros with onions and carrots and some jalapenos, and made a hot sauce for my husband, which actually turned out more like a chutney, maybe a little bit chunky. But it is delicious. We just had hamburgers a couple nights ago and put that on our hamburgers, and it was so good. So if you are a pepper grower, a pepper person, even if you just go to the store and buy quantities of peppers at any times, I will be sure to include a link for the habanero hot sauce that I made. We also had an incredible harvest of pumpkins this year, which was so much fun. I've been able to raise pumpkins now in this garden for multiple years, and they do really well here. So, but this year's pumpkin harvest did not disappoint. So I have pumpkins decorating everywhere, and you may see some pumpkins throughout in some other images, but it has been really fun to have a good pumpkin harvest. Something else that's happened in the last month is I got to go to another fiber event. So the Fiberfest, Fremont Fiberfest, that happens in Riverton, Wyoming every year, happened this year in October. So October 8th, I was down in Riverton, Wyoming, and was able to vend and sell some Sweet Mountain crafts down there. It was a lot of fun. It's always fun to go to that event because there's a lot of really fiber-minded people there, and just get to see and interact with people on so many different things. I really enjoy these fiber events as much for the opportunity to share my stuff with others as it is an opportunity for me to connect with people in the fiber world. So it just expands my reach a little bit more by being able to go to these events. They are a lot of work, so I don't know how often or how far I will go with fiber events, but when I get the opportunity, it's a lot of fun. Let's get started talking about some of the projects that I've been working on very specifically. And I will mention really quick, what am I wearing? I believe I've worn this sweater in a previous podcast. It's just a purchased sweater from Eddie Bauer. It's an Eddie Bauer sweater that is not one that I knit, but I just really like it. It's a comfy, cozy sweater, so I throw it on a day when I know that I'm just going to be kind of home and taking it a little bit more easy. Just an easy, fun sweater to wear. For finished objects, woohoo, I made it. The very first thing that I want to mention here is my new dye studio. You guys have been hearing me talk about my new dye studio space and the excitement of getting that up and running, and it has happened. I'm so thankful for this new space. I've moved out of my garage, so that was a process. I started dyeing in my kitchen a number of years ago. That moved to my garage, which was amazing because we actually built space in the garage to hold my dye studio. But it was still a garage. We still parked our cars and had our family stuff throughout the garage. So it has been really exciting to move into a dye studio that is dedicated to just being a dye studio. Now, I will say that this dye studio is also tied to my new yarn store. So one portion of the space is retail, and then the dye studio is a different space within the building. What that does for me is it, first of all, encompasses all my business yarn related or fiber related activities in one building, but it also means that it's no longer at home, which means that I can't just quick throw in a dye, do housework, keep going with my day kind of thing. I have to be very intentional about my planning and scheduling so that when I'm at the building, I am making sure that my dye time isn't eating into my retail store time, because I have very set hours for my retail space. And then also that in the evenings, by the time the store closes, lots of times I'm too tired to stay and do any more dyeing. So I'm trying to figure out a new routine here. Things are happening and it's good. But as you can imagine, moving into a new space, I'm still organizing the space. I'm still getting, like I say, my schedule figured out. So this has been a bit of a process for me, just trying to get moved over and getting set up. But being that it's been the first month of it, I'm trying to be very patient with myself and be very understanding of the situation. And then hopefully within the next month, I'll start getting some of those regular routines in place so that my dye system and time, my dyeing time will improve, because right now it's still a little bit clunky just with that initial change. But it's so exciting, and I've just been really relieved to see that that's all together now. And I've been having help in the dye studio with getting yarn wound and getting things taken care of behind the scenes, which is a huge help to me. I'm working very quickly and aggressively on Christmas cash kits, getting those finalized for all the people that pre-ordered my Christmas cash kit. Those will be completed within the next week. Ideally, I'll finish having those packaged up, and then they'll soon start to ship soon after. So by mid-November, for sure, those will be shipped out. Really quick, while I'm on this topic, I realize that I've shared some photos on my podcast, but leave me a comment below if you'd like me to do a walkthrough tour. It might be a separate video, it might not be associated with a podcast, but I would be happy to do a walkthrough tour of Wyoming Yarn and Fiber, my new retail store, as well as a walkthrough of my new dye studio. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to check on those and see what you guys think. The next project that I finished is one that I don't have here with me today, but I will be sure to insert a photo here. This is the Grace's top by Corinne Walcher, Gingy Knits. This top was so much fun to work on. I was really excited about getting it finished. It actually sits in my shop right now as a floor sample, so I haven't been able to wear it myself yet, but it'll be coming home probably here in the next few weeks. Because it is a tank top, it's a great transition piece for layering, and I love the orange color that I was able to knit this up with. The design element of the lace work down at the bottom is beautiful, and it kind of, with that orange yarn that I used, this was knit in Usun, which is a Marisol yarn, and that design element with that orange color kind of is reminiscent of wheat to me. It kind of looks like a wheat stalk, or the top of a wheat stalk. So it just looks like a really fun fall top, and I'm excited to add this one to my own wardrobe after I finish using it as a floor sample at the shop. Next project that I started and finished, I don't even think I'd started this at the time of my last podcast, so I'm almost certain I didn't bring this up on the last podcast, but I have fallen in love with the Toft animals. If you guys are unfamiliar with Toft, Carrie Lord is the designer. She's from the UK, and she comes up with these amazing creatures. Edward's Menagerie is one of her books that she has featured. Actually, I think Edward's Menagerie may have been one of the first books that she came out with all of her little creatures. But Toft puts out yarns and kits and books and all kinds of things for crocheting these adorable animals. Well, when I found them, I made sure to order a number of them for the shop, and in doing so, I had to crochet one myself. So I chose to work on Chardonnay, the Palomino pony, and this is what's left of the kit. I don't have the pony with me right here, but I do have all the pieces and parts of the kit that's left over. I think I almost might have enough for a whole nother pony, but I did finish my Chardonnay. Here's an image really quick of Chardonnay just on the card that comes in the kit. The pattern you can see right here with the American flag there. The pattern is written, like I said, by a UK designer, but when I worked with this kit, because it's got that American flag on there, it designates that this is in US terms. So US crochet terms and UK crochet terms are slightly different. They're very similar wording, but for different stitches. So you have to be very aware of that when you're purchasing anything from a British designer. But this kit in particular was put in US terms, and the instructions are very, very clear. And then there's also online tutorials, which made the process of crocheting this really fun and very enjoyable. I actually got to teach a private lesson for someone that wanted to make one of the kits up. I spent some time with her one evening helping her get started on one of the creatures, on one of the animals. But here, I'm going to insert a quick video of Chardonnay, my pony. He now hangs out at my shop and is another sample available just to show people what these kits would make if they choose to purchase one of these guys. They're very fun, and I'd highly recommend working with any of the patterns from Carrie. The next piece I completed was a cross stitch that I did for the shop. I wanted to make sure to have some things in my shop that welcome my cross-stitch customers. I have the only shop in the area that really caters to cross-stitch and embroidery. So I make sure to try to include some things that just are welcoming to bring those customers in for a lot more than just DMC floss or fabric. My camera is choosing to be very, very finicky with me today. And I have a feeling it's because I'm wearing my watch. And so as I wave my arms, it zooms in on me, and I really should figure out what that is that makes that happen. But anyway, watch is off my wrist now, and hopefully it won't continue to do that to me because it's been frustrating. I've had to re-record a couple things here. Anyway, so to finish this off, this project I was talking about, I had watched a few different floss tubes on finishing projects and just gathering ideas from various places. And I decided to go ahead and finish this by stretching the cross-stitch piece over a foam core board with a layer of batting in between. And then I put more fabric, the orange gingham, on top of another foam core and layered them in order to create that framing effect. Then I also took Lady Dot Creates pom-poms and pinned those around the outside of the finished piece, and just really love how cute those are. And it was so simple just to pin those in. I didn't sew them on or anything. I just pinned them and they look so fun. So this was a very fun project, and definitely got me excited about cross stitching again. And while I don't have plans to do floss tube anytime soon, you will occasionally see me talking about my cross stitch here on this channel. The last finished object I'm going to talk to you about is just a finish to a point object. This is some fiber that I'm working with. In my last podcast, I had mentioned some fiber that I had received from Pineapple Yarn, something that I had purchased actually for my birthday. It was the fiber of the month from Pineapple Yarn, or the mystery fiber of the month. So I received it unbeknownst to me what the colors were going to be. But I decided I want to play on my drum carder and kind of have fun blending the colors that I had received. So here you're going to see, this is just a little bit of it, that actually this was at the end of what I had received, what I was working with. But I took those fibers. So the original fibers, unfortunately I don't have a photo to show here, but the original fibers had purples and reds, oranges, just these really brilliant colors in there, yellows. And I decided to go ahead and blend them together. And you can see I still have kept the colors somewhat individual, but a little bit more blended, so that when I spin this up, it will create more of a blended look rather than chunks of colors or separate sections of colors. So I'm really excited to get this spun up, but I did want to show also the blending process. So this is one little bit of it. Here I'm going to throw a picture in of me doing some of the blending on my drum carder. So this is a Brother drum carder, a motorized drum carder. And I got that so that I could work with it, all kinds of fibers, and just putting them together to create new palettes of spinning fibers. So there in that image is a finished object photo of one of the bats that I created on my carder. And here's that bat unwound. So you can see that from the original Pineapple Yarn combo, which was more these colors, I decided to blend in this really bright blue that I also had. So this is actually a yarn that a fiber I had dyed, but this is all superwash merino. It's the Pineapple Yarn fiber has nylon in it as well, where mine is just a superwash merino. But I figured for doing what I'm planning to do with it, which is probably create some art yarns, it was going to be okay to blend those. So by putting them all together, I feel like it creates this beautiful sunset colorway. Even like holding it like that, doesn't it look like it's sunset over the ocean or something? Anyway, I had a lot of fun blending that up and just playing with what was going to happen with it. So one thing that happens on the drum carder is that it can be really hard to determine what it all is going to look like as a finished bat. And then of course from the bat, it still needs to be spun into fiber or into yarn. And so it's going to change a few different times, but I am really excited about this bat and looking forward to getting it on my wheel. Let's talk about some works in progress. On my last podcast, I talked about working on a crochet granny squared sweater made out of the Barocco tiramisu. That's this yarn here. This is a beautiful yarn with wool, acrylic, mohair, and silk in it. And it actually is a yarn that acts like two yarns held together. So it has, let's see if I can separate this a little bit. It really has two strands held double, which is what a lot of people do on their own. But this yarn comes with the two strands separate or already together for you. So it's already been held together. And the very fun thing about that is that it creates an overall continuity of color, even though there's a color shift or color change in the yarn. So I would say that the major color changes are all happening in the yarn, in the base yarn, I should say. The mohair is kind of an aqua teal color maybe, that is being held with the main yarn. So I've made some good progress on this sweater, although I'm not quite done yet. I am excited about where I'm at. So here's one sleeve. It's a short sleeve, kind of a 3/4 length sleeve sweater when finished. So there's one of the sleeves. Here's the second sleeve. And again, I've just been having fun. The project went really, really fast when I was working on the granny squares. They were granny squares and then granny half squares or triangles. You can see a triangle here at the top. And it was going really fast at that stage for me because once you figure out what the pattern is, which it's pretty basic granny square pattern, I didn't have to look at anything to just keep making those. So I made a whole pile of those very quickly. But then when it came to the point of assembling, I found myself slowing down because I had to pay a lot more attention to the pattern. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is at the assembly point. Obviously I've gotten the blocks all together, all the squares are put together, but now I'm at the point of doing the additional stitching so that then I can get the finished pieces all put together. So here is the back. Let me move that up for you so you can really see and appreciate the colors. So many great colors in here. And yet I love how it's not a definite granny square, because normally granny squares change color with each round. I really like this one where it's the granny square, but it's kind of an understated granny square. So I have the edges crocheted on, and I'm at the top right now getting ready to add some crochet rows for height on the top of the back. I also have the front. The squares are all assembled. Now I have to do the additional stitching in order to get them ready to assemble. So my panels, the main focal point of each of my panels is done. Now I'll work to finish doing the crocheted rows in order to assemble the sweater. This is being crocheted on a 4.5 millimeter or US 7 crochet hook. And I'm, like I said, really enjoying the process. We'll see what I think of the finished product, but it's been a really fun process for me. I've never crocheted a sweater for myself with granny squares. Yeah, this will be the first time I've ever crocheted granny squares for a garment, actually. I don't even think I've used granny squares for a scarf. I did do granny squares for a hat for my daughter when she was little, but that's been a while ago. So it's been a very fun project and I'm enjoying the process for sure. Another project that I've continued that was on the last podcast was a pair of socks. This pair of socks is being knit using my Autumn Chill colorway. This is on DK weight. And as I'm doing, this is a superwash merino with a nylon, so 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's a really great sock yarn. Only thing I can say about this is that because it's DK weight, it goes really fast, but it also means that it uses quite a bit in order to do socks. And since I'm doing an adult male size sock here, I figured that just the one skein might not be enough. So you can see one skein of the main color might not be enough. I decided to not do, when I do socks, I typically do heels, toes, and cuffs are in the contrast color. And the contrast color is here. It's just a kind of a mossy green color. But I didn't imagine that I had enough for this pattern with the DK weight of the contrast. So I decided to skip the contrast on the heel. Here I am. I'm working bottom up. So this is the toe. Here's the heel, and I'm now working up the leg. And I just decided that it probably was not going to be enough of the contrast. So I will instead just focus the contrast on the toe and the cuff. But I am really loving the colors and how they play out in this yarn. They're kind of a subtle fall color, but turning out really, really nice. So again, you can see it here on the skein, the wound up skein, versus on the sock. And it's amazing how much it changes, really. The colors are all there, but then when you start to see them knit, they take on a new look. So I'm having a lot of fun with this. The plan is that these are hopefully going to be some Christmas presents, but I have a little ways to go yet on the first one, and then I'll get the next one started. I made sure to set aside the second set for myself in case I find myself running quite a bit short on this first set. Again, mostly because I'm doing an adult male pair of socks. If I was knitting a pair of socks for myself, the DK set would probably be sufficient. I would imagine that I still might not get heel, toe, and cuff out of the mini, just because it might not extend far enough, but I could probably still do like heel and cuff, or toe and cuff, or toe and heel out of a mini. And I'm almost certain that the 100 grams would be enough to do a complete sock for myself. But anyway, that's a lot of fun. It is being held in a bag by Delightful Works. This is a beautiful bag she did for me. It's Stop and Smell the Flowers. I call this, well, I put this rather with some yarn that I dyed, and I call it the Wildflower set. I will mention that again in a little bit here. But very cute bag from Susan of Delightful Works. So if you know me and have watched me for a while, I often do a lot of socks. And surprise, surprise, I'm doing the same again. So I have the one pair of DK socks on 9-inch circulars, US 3, size US 3 needle. But then I have a second pair of socks on the go. And again, this will be a pair to gift. Actually, I should say this is a pair that's been requested, maybe. One of my sons has requested a pair of socks, it's always fun to be asked to make something, especially by your kids, that they like what you do enough. I mean, he's 20 and yet he still wants me to make socks for him. So that I feel flattered. Let's just say that. It's very fun. But this pair of socks is actually not on a yarn base that I've ever dyed before for the shop. It was a base that I wanted to trial, so I decided that knitting this pair of socks would be a great opportunity for me to trial this base. It's a Targhee and nylon base. So Targhee is an American breed of wool. It actually was originally started in Idaho and is kind of considered between Idaho and Wyoming, a breed that is native to this region. And it's a very unique, tends to be a little bit more of a toothier. I would say the micron count is a little bit higher on these. But I had never worked with it for socks, and certainly with the nylon blend, I wanted to see how it would work out. So far, it's been a lot of fun. This is considered a fingering weight yarn, but as I'm working this on my US size, I'm going to try and hold this up here so that you can see the thickness of the thread here. I'm working it up on my US size 1 needles, or 2.25 millimeter needles, and it's creating a rather thick fabric. So we'll see. I could almost say that this would be more like a sport weight yarn, possibly almost to a DK weight. But anyway, either way, it's making a lovely sock. You can see I have both. This is my go-to method of knitting socks, is 2 at a time on a circular needle. I use a 32-inch Xiaogu red lace needle. And the sock pattern that I'm doing here is just my own. I don't have a printed pattern for this, but I am doing a rib stitch on the top of the foot. And then once I get up to the leg, the ribbing will go around the leg. So, and then for the contrast, for my contrast mini here, I happen to have, I happen to have a mini floating around. This is actually my Scree sock base. So Scree sock is my 80% superwash merino with 20% nylon base. It's a 4-ply yarn, but it also is a little bit heavy for fingering weight yarn. Again, it might fall in the sport weight range, but it makes just a really lovely sock, a very solid structured sock. So I really like this yarn for socks, and I am using that as my contrast for heels and toes. We'll see if I use it for cuffs. I may just let this color go all the way up the leg. The color on this, though, is a color that you'll see again here in just a little bit on the podcast. It's my Strength colorway, and it's just a semi-tonal gray. That's just really pretty with that effect of the semi-tonality in it. Now that I've shown you my 2 sock knitting projects, I'm going to show you my next cross-stitch project that I've started. I'm just at the very, very beginning of this project, but here is, can you tell? Can you tell? No, it's an octopus. So just down on the very edge of this square, I've started this octopus. I'll be repeating this octopus 4 times around in order to create a Biscornu. So here's the original design. Again, this is by Tiny Modernist. Here's the image from the chart. And as you can see, this here creates like a pillow shape. So Biscornu is where you take and you cross stitch 2 squares, and then you put them together, but you put them together just offset from each other, so they create this really unique shaped pillow. And I thought this was a lot of fun looking and just really neat. So I'm making this. You can tell probably right away I did not stick with the color choices. I decided that I wanted to do a purple octopus rather than the blue. So I'm changing just the blues to purple shades. Everything else will stay the same. There's some orange and yellow on there, and some like a cream color or just an off-white color. Those will all be staying the same colors, but the blue is now purple. I am stitching this on a, let's see, this is 14 count Aida cloth, and I'm doing 2/1 on this. So I'm finding this a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be. I didn't really look at the chart or the image all that closely. When you look at this, you just see blue, right? A blue octopus. But when you start looking at the charting, it's a lot of 1 stitch of this color, 1 stitch of that color, 2 stitches of another color. There's actually 3 shades of blue just in the octopus alone, and I will have 3 shades of purple in my octopus as well. But it's amazing how just those individual stitches, it's really easy to get off count and accidentally put a stitch of one color in the wrong spot, and then you either have to alter and kind of adjust for the pattern, or just make it work somehow, or go back and take it out and start again, which I've done a couple times on this pattern already. So it's simple in its own right and super cute, but it's still taking some thinking and some planning and being attentive while I'm doing it. So that's my current cross stitch project. I'm really enjoying getting this done. This is actually going to be a Christmas present as well. Now let's talk about some new acquisitions I've made. These acquisitions are going to be a little all over the place because I've been to Fiber Market and had lots of new stuff in the shop that comes in, and I get to see new things and get exposed to new products. So I'm kind of all over the place. It's not just yarn by any means, or fiber specifically, but kind of all over. So bear with me. I have lots of fun stuff to share. The first thing that I wanted to show is some Lykke needles. I actually had a Danish customer come into my shop and she told me the pronunciation of this, but it's easier to just say Lykke because so many of us know it that way. The way that she said it was more like Lykke, and it's beautiful if you know Danish and can speak it well, or know how to say it, but to say Lykke in English, I think just throws everybody else. So I'll say Lykke and get it close, but not exact. But this is the Cipro set of these needles, and they are copper. Aren't they gorgeous? Oh, I love copper. When I was a kid, my mom had copper decor in our kitchen. And so I've always had copper kind of around, and it's just such a pretty metal. It really is. And the great thing about these is that they are an actual copper. They're an unfinished copper, which means that over time, and this one, like there's a little bit, let's see if I can hold this up, a little bit of patina that's starting to happen on this needle. But they will patina, and you can, of course, polish them and keep that from happening if you want to. But I kind of like that. I like that it's authentic copper and that it will age and show its age to some extent. I love copper. So I am super excited. This is an interchangeable circular set, as you can see. The needle sizes start at a US 3 or a 3.25 millimeter and go up to a US 10, I think. Yep, no, US 10 and a half. So that's a 6.5 millimeter needle. And it's just a really neat set. I'm super excited to have this set and get some work done with it. The next set that I recently received, again, a Luca set. This is another one that I was super excited to get to try out. This is a Tunisian interchangeable set, Tunisian crochet interchangeable set. The great thing with this set is that the cable here swivels. It allows the hook to swivel real nicely so that even if your cable is getting a little bit caught up or whatever, your hook still swivels, which as a crocheter works, you tend to be moving the hook back and forth in a kind of a twisting motion. And so having that swivel on the cable, I'm really excited about having that feature of this hook set. This is their indigo. The Luca hooks come in a variety of color options. The indigo is the blue option, and it's just where they've taken their hook and stained it essentially in this blue color. It's reminiscent of a pair of blue jeans, which is very fun and just kind of a neat set altogether. So I have in this set a US E4 or a 3.5 millimeter hook up to a P or a 16, US 16, which is 11.5 millimeter hook. So it's quite the range of sizes of crochet hooks. And I've already worked with a couple of these hooks. You can see I even have one out of the set right now because I was doing a project with it or just playing around with it. And what I'm finding is they are just really, really comfortable. They're warm to the touch, so they're really nice and just comfortable to hold. They are an inline hook, so you can see that the nose of the hook stays in line with the shaft of the hook. But it's just a nice, smooth, easy action. And they do have a bit of a point on the tip, which makes it nice to move in and out of the projects. So I'm finding that it's a fun set to work with. I haven't done any Tunisian with them just yet. I was just using them as crochet hooks initially, but they work great for both, or at least for the regular hook and just using them as a standalone hook. They've been great. And I look forward to getting a Tunisian project going with those. While I was at the fiber event in Riverton, I was so excited. There was a person getting rid of a bunch of books for free. And these are two books that I've looked at before for weaving. So here's this book by Mary Black, Key to Weaving. And it is just a great book. It has all kinds of patterns throughout, as well as descriptions and explanations of weaving itself. So lots of great information here. I have not spent a lot of time looking at it just yet, but this will be a book that I reference, I have a feeling, on a lot of occasions in the future. The other one that I picked up is a great book that I've already looked at. I'd actually checked this out of my library probably twice by now, because it's such a good book for early, beginning weavers, and I'm still definitely a beginning weaver. But this book is by Deborah Chandler. It's Learning to Weave. And this is put out by Interweave Press, and it's just a great book with lots of just really simple helpful information on weaving. So everything from the very beginning of setting up your loom all the way through, and then it has some very basic, just fun projects in the book. So again, a really great resource to have as a weaver. I was so excited to find these and that they were free. It was amazing. Someone had cleaned out their weaving supplies and we're just getting rid of these. They were extras. They said they hadn't already had a copy and they didn't need them. So I was excited about that. Along with that, I came across, well, first I'll show these. These are Scandinavian weaving magazines. Again, just free to me. They were published in 1989. Can you see that there? 1989. And even though they are written in a language that I wouldn't even begin to imagine that I could read, the great thing is when you open these up, they have a pamphlet on the inside that has everything in English. So all the articles have been typed up. Look at this great 1989 print. Isn't that fun? Such a throwback, wow. But they have all the articles typed up in English. So in the original magazine, you can see it's all in, let's see, I'm guessing, well, I don't even know if I should guess. Danish? Norwegian? I'm not sure which. I know that those languages cross over in a lot of things. So I'm not sure if it's in Danish or Norwegian, but it's not in a language I understand. And yet it's really fun to see how it looks in their language. Anyway, so I was super excited to find these because again, there's some really great images, some great, like here, this is the set for, or the draft for a weaving project. So this here is universal language for weaving. And then look here at what it made. So I can see myself, again, just spending some time with these, learning from them. And since they were free, I just thought it was kind of a unique and fun thing to grab. Another thing that was kind of fun, again, just vintage, and I grabbed it just for that alone because it's a vintage version of it. Spin-Off is a magazine that has been around for some time. This also comes from Interweave Press. But this issue is from 1980 and it's just really fun. It's fun for me, especially now where I'm selling in a retail space, selling products, that it's kind of fun to look back and see some of the things that have been around since the 80s. So I loved getting this book. Here's a scanning electron microscope study of vegetable fibers. Isn't that fun? I love things like this. I kind of get a little geeky maybe on some of it, but I was just excited to find these things. And again, just to be able to grab them for free. They'll hang out in my stash for a while and then eventually are in my collection for a while. Eventually, when I'm gone or it's time to clean things out, someone else will hopefully get excited about adding something like this to their own stuff. But that was really fun. I found some other great things in Riverton, so give me just a minute and I'll show you some of those things. The next thing that I found in Riverton is very colorful and exciting. This is all East Frisian fiber. It smells woolly. And you can see that this has just been dyed up in all kinds of colors. So I had a lot of fun pulling out a couple different bags of this fiber. It's been washed and it's been cleaned and it's been worked with to some extent, but you can see it's still kind of gnarly. So it definitely needs to go through the drum carder, and it's going to be going through the drum carder probably a few times before it's completely ready to spin. But it is so much fun. And this came from a fiber, or from a farm, excuse me, near Sheridan, Wyoming. And it's, I forget the owner's name right now, I'm sorry, but I'll be sure to put a link to her business online. She just had a lot of great products that were there, mostly fiber, some finished items, but I just couldn't resist buying a bag of colorful fiber. So like I say, this is some East Frisian. I will get that on the carder here soon and then get that ready for spinning. Another thing that I had fun with was there was an Angora bunny that someone brought to the fiber market. And I really have not done a lot with Angora. So I decided that I needed to spend some time learning a little bit about it. And I figured the best way to do that is probably to spend some time playing with the fiber. So here, this came from Poppy the Angora rabbit. And this is just Angora straight up. Nothing special with it. It's just the fiber itself. But look at this beautiful color. Poppy is a pretty gray with kind of a really lightly colored undercoat. And anyway, the rabbit owner was there, and she made sure to share some details just about working with the Angora rabbit. One of them being particularly that she's found the best way to spin Angora fibers and to make it really a quality yarn is to mix it with merino. So I'll show you here in just a minute, but she does a blend of her Angora with merino. So this one came from Blue the bunny, and it is a blue fiber. So this, even though it looks gray, this would be considered blue on the rabbit himself, the coloring. And again, it's just a beautiful gray fiber. So excited to get to work with this fiber. It'll be a lot of fun to spin this up. Again, I just really wanted an opportunity to play with Angora. I've had some other people ask me if I've done much with Angora, and I haven't. So I was looking forward to that. So then the last thing that I did is that Poppy, the first fiber that I showed you that was so light in color with some gray in it, the owner took that and had it milled with merino to create this beautiful roving. Isn't that gorgeous? And I cannot even begin to tell you the feel of it. It is so, so soft. It's just a lovely roving that I will probably spin into quite a fine yarn and then do some sort of a lace, probably a light lace scarf or cowl for myself. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous yarn and so soft, or gorgeous roving, excuse me. It'll make a gorgeous yarn. It's a gorgeous roving right now, but so, so soft. There is one more yarn that I want to show you. And this one I'm super excited about because of the plans I have for it. But this is from Jennings Family Fiber. And this is, Colleen Jennings is a ranch owner outside, excuse me. Colleen Jennings is a ranch owner outside of Riverton. And she keeps, let's see, I think it might say on this one what this fiber is. Pygora. So she keeps some Pygora and goats, excuse me. And so this fiber is all Pygora that then she has dyed, and she was putting it all on special at ridiculously cheap prices. I kind of actually felt bad for the price that I paid for these because she had it so cheap, but I made sure to grab 3 of these skeins out of the Pygora, and these were all hand dyed by Colleen, and they're beautiful colors, aren't they? These blues. And these are going to make an amazing woven piece. The durability, you can just feel that it's a little bit rough to this touch, but it has a durability there that I think is just going to hold up really beautifully as a woven piece. So these guys are probably going to go on a rigid heddle loom and become a scarf. So they're so pretty, and I think together they'll just make a really neat piece. I'm not sure which ones Probably this one, this blue, will make my warp, and then these other two I'll use as weft. Although I'm not sure yet. I need to think through that one still. One other yarn that I got from her, this is wool and kid mohair, and this is just some of her hand spun. That was such a beautiful gray that I decided to go ahead and grab it too. It actually would look really good with this, just because of the sheen in it with that mohair. But we'll see. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to be doing with it either, but it was just really, really pretty. And on camera, I don't know if you're going to be able to capture that sheen, but that mohair in there just gives it a little bit of light fluff to it, as well as a shininess that the wool alone would not have had. So anyway, those were my fun acquisitions from the Fremont Fiberfest. Again, well worth attending, and like I said, I got some free things there, which makes it always a lot of fun to walk out with some freebies and some great fibers to work with. My next acquisition is not fiber related in the same sense, it's textile related, I suppose, but I found this great bag on my way home from Fremont Fiberfest. We stopped in Thermopolis, Wyoming, and there's a fun little shop there, Nature Made or Nature's Design. I forget the name of the shop exactly, but there's just this one little shop in Thermopolis that I like to go to when we drive through. And they had this adorable bag, really a purse. I mean, I'll probably use it as a purse, but it could be double easily as a project bag, and we'll probably get lots of yarn put in it. But it's just a really well-made bag by Clea Ray, and it is repurposed canvas and military tints. So all the canvas on the bag is either from repurposed tints or military fabrics. The inside of the bag has this blue ticking, which is kind of fun. And then it also has some pockets, so a zippered pocket, a couple open pockets, and then a zippered pocket on the back. But I really loved the queen bee on the front with, again, just another great pocket. And it does have a strap, but I'm intending to weave a strap for this bag. So I got to get busy on that. But isn't it a fun bag? I love that it's repurposed from fabrics that might not have otherwise had any more life in them. So fun bag for sure. My last acquisition that I'm going to talk about today was actually another freebie. This was something that I found. We have a local thrift shop that has a like a free bin outside. So if the if the clothing doesn't sell in the thrift store, then lots of times they'll put it outside in a free bin, and then every once in a while they clean out that free bin and send it on its way wherever it goes. But occasionally there's things that are put out in the free bin that are still quite valuable or still have some sort of some quality to them. So like I will stop by and try to find fabrics that are going to be good to cut up and reuse myself, kind of like the canvas bag that I just showed. I don't make canvas bags, but I will use wool sweaters that I can shrink and felt, or any kind of wool cloth. So I've actually taken wool jackets, like tweed men's sports jackets, for example, and I'll cut them and use them for projects. So one time I used one to refinish the seat of a chair that I use in my office all the time. I have some that I've used for project bags in the past. Especially wool. If I see something that is a wool blend or 100% wool, I will almost always grab it. So actually during this last stop at our bargain box free bin, I ended up picking up a pair of men's wool pants that wool just doesn't like get old and nasty. It usually lasts for years and years, so it can be repurposed many, many times over. And this pair of wool pants, I'm not sure if they're military, possibly. They're definitely that military green, that, yeah, I forget the color name, but anyway, the olive drab color, there we go. Anyway, so that will get repurposed either for bags or for projects. And then I found a woman's jacket, like a blazer, that was a wool blend. It's polyester and wool, but again, it'll get used, and it's got that wool content. So I'll always grab those things and find ways to repurpose them if I can. But the other thing that I found was this crewel work. Now, crewel work is something that I don't really love to do myself, but when I found this, and I thought it was well done, and it just needs love. It just needs framed. It just needs put into a finished project and then hung up and enjoyed. So I grabbed this. It looks like it was stitched by a J-A-K, I'm guessing. It kind of looks like it says Jax, but I think that's a K maybe, in 2002. So I didn't want to let that just go away. I value that someone took the time to stitch this, and I decided that I was going to rescue it, and hopefully I'll get it framed or at least finished in some fashion and then put it out as part of my fall decor, whether I do that here at home or take it to the shop and put it up as fall decor in the shop. It kind of makes me sad to think that that would just go away, possibly to the trash. So I wanted to make sure to rescue it and find a way to use it. This is, again, 1980's the year, I guess, for this episode. This came from a design, copyright 1980, from National Paragon Corp. So there you go. And it's a pretty covered bridge. I don't know if it's based off of a location in particular, but anyway, I just thought it was fun and something that I'll take the time to finish myself since someone else hadn't finished it as of yet. Okay, let's do a little shop talk now really quick. I have been, as I said, making a lot of transitions, trying to get ready or getting my new studio set up. So that has taken me some time and definitely taken my dye schedule down to a different level of completion. I'm still getting some things dyed on a regular. I have been dyeing regularly for my patrons, which has been a lot of fun and has been kind of my reprieve in my dyeing world, you might say, because it's my opportunity to make sure that I'm regularly getting to the dye studio and getting yarns completed. So the Patreon sets that have gone out recently have been a lot of fun for me. I've been pretty excited about what I've been able to create there. But on top of getting some things dyed for my patrons, I've also been trying to get some new things done for my Fiberfest that I've done this fall. And unfortunately, at the time of my last podcast, I had told you guys that I would have a bunch of new things up in my shop the weekend after I posted my podcast. I had all kinds of computer errors. My website crashed like 2 or 3 times, and I finally figured out what was going on. But unfortunately, because of all the work that I was doing on the website, I did not get those yarns posted like I had thought I would. So in between from when that happened, of probably almost a month ago now till now, I have listed a few items in my shop, but I still have more that I need to just take the time and get posted. So my hope is that after I get this podcast posted, sometime within this next week, so sometime within this first week of November, I will have some new yarns up for you guys in the shop and some things for you to see. So really quick, let's talk about some of them. The first one that I'm going to show you right now is Mountainous, and here is an image of it in skein form. And then here I have it actually wound up into a cake. This is just a sampling of it, so it's not a full 100-gram cake here. But here's Mountainous, and here's the coordinate. It is a very bright, deep green, kind of a nice emerald green here, but it just pairs really nicely with this. And I like the depth of color that I got on this set for just being a really nice, I don't know, somehow this makes me think of a good guy's gift set for making a pair of socks. It would work well potentially for a scarf as well for a guy, but I really like how those colors turned out. The next yarn that I'm going to talk about here, I don't have with me in hand, so I'll just show a picture. This is the palette set. And this set, again, both of these 2 yarns that I'm showing right now are on my Scree sock base, my 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. This is a 4-ply fingering weight, but it is a little bit heavier fingering weight, so can be works very well for lots of projects. Palette is, again, just really vibrant, bright colors. I think I've been in the mood for lots of color lately. With all the excitement of moving into the new studio, I find myself wanting to dye very exciting colors as well. So that's where palette came in with these bright colors. In the studio shots that you would have seen earlier in the podcast, you probably saw palette while it was still in the pans. So, and also while it was hanging to dry. But there you just now get to see it wound up or twisted up as well. Another sock set that I have is Strength. Again, this is similar to the set that I'm working with on that one ribbed pair of socks that I'm working on. The difference here is that this is on my scree sock base. So the pair that I'm working on is a different base and one that I've not yet brought into the shop. But my scree sock base, again, just that semi-tonal gray that would work well for gift making. The next set that I want to mention is Wildflower. And this Wildflower set is actually a collaboration with Susan of Delightful Works. She made this great bag, and I believe I featured this on my last podcast, but unfortunately it never got listed in my online shop. So I wanted to revisit this set because it turned out so great, and Susan did a fabulous job with the bags. And then I love how this set turned out to match. They coordinate really, really nicely. So if you're looking for a good gift idea, this would be an excellent present for any knitter or crocheter. The yarn itself is on my slope sock base, so it is my 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, but it's a 2-ply yarn, and it turned out just really, really pretty. Unfortunately, I had wanted to release this midsummer, this set, but life did not cooperate with that, so here I am in November, finally, hopefully getting it up on the website. But I have sold some of these sets at the Fiberfest or Fiber fairs that I've been to, but I have a few more to go. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check it out. Some other colors that I have coming to the shop are my Cool Breeze is on my DK weight. That is not my DK sock. So that is 100% superwash merino. And it is a lovely base to work with for sweaters, hats, scarves, all those things. So I have Cool Breeze. Also on this base, I have Strength. This is not obviously as a sock set. This is just the singular color of the main color from the sock set, but this is also on my DK base. And then my last DK yarn at this point in time is Fall Colors. And this is just a really fun autumnal colorway that again just knits up and crochets up really nicely in all kinds of projects. So those will be in the shop here soon. I hope to continue to add things to the shop in the next month. I have not, can't at this point, with as full as my schedule is, I cannot guarantee when my shop updates will be on any kind of regular schedule, but I can say that I will be continuing to add things to the shop as I can. So hopefully my first, or my next shop update, let's say, will be this first weekend in November. And then from there, I'll just try to, I'm usually pretty good to post on Instagram when I have new things in the shop. So if you're interested, be sure to check out Instagram or Facebook and kind of check in with me there. I do want to do a quick shout out to all my patrons. Thank you to each of you who continue to support me. I have patrons that support me at various levels, at varying levels, but all of them have been a huge encouragement to me as I have been in the process of working through and getting my studio set up. So again, I cannot express to you guys how much it has meant to me to be able to dye for you guys through this whole process, because in these months where life has been a little bit scattered and a little all over the place as I've tried to get my retail space up and running, and as I've been transitioning from my garage studio to the shop studio, I have had a lot of things on my plate, as well as being a wife and a mother and all of those things too. So It has been a huge blessing to me, and I thank you all so much for supporting me on Patreon, those of you that do. If you don't this time support me on Patreon but are interested, I'll be sure to include the links in the show notes below, and be sure to check things out there. At this point, that is my monthly subscription program. I will potentially change from that platform to a regular monthly subscription platform on my website, but at this time it's just easier for me to leave it there just for the next little bit. So with all that said, I think I've talked enough. I think I've shared pretty much everything that I'd set aside to share with you all. So I'm going to say adieu for now, and I hope to see you again in about a month. We'll see. In the meantime, have so much fun with all your fiber projects. Stay enjoying each of those things, especially as we continue into fall and cool weather here in the Northern Hemisphere. I just hope that you guys are enjoying all that you're discovering and doing. Thank you for hanging out with me and spending the afternoon. Bye-bye. Just when I was a kid, or has just changed that much from when I was young, that I am kind of blown away really at how much that there is in the cross stitch world. So I'm learning all the time. Barocco.